Hi everyone, welcome to my video. I'm so excited to be talking to you all today about this topic. I think having cultural humility and responsiveness and knowing how to continue practicing that as a future occupational therapist is incredibly important. And even outside of the field of occupational therapy, understanding and acknowledging and practicing cultural humility will better our relationship with so many people outside of our own circle. And so, hopefully, at the end of this video today, some things that you will be able to take away from this is that you will be able to define cultural humility and responsiveness and what it is in your own terms, in your own words, and also be able to provide at least 1 to 2 examples of how you can incorporate cultural humility into your own day-to-day life, and even as a future occupational therapist, how you can incorporate cultural humility into your practice. And so, one of the first things that I would like for us to do together is watch a video. The video is pretty much called Cultural Humility. It's a TED Talk by Juliana Mosley, and the video is a little over 16 minutes, so it's a little longer, but I think the video itself and Juliana, she does an amazing job of describing cultural humility and what it entails and how important it is to practice this in our day and age. The video came out in 2017, but I think, of course, it's still very relevant to this day and age, just 3 years later, because our world and our country in particular continues to grow, and so many new people are coming here, so many new cultures are being introduced into this country. And I think it's important for us as healthcare providers, future healthcare providers, to really understand that knowing this and knowing how to practice cultural humility will really, really benefit us in creating an even stronger therapeutic relationship with our clients. And so I'll let you all watch the video. You can pause mine if you want to, or you can continue listening to the video and then you can just watch it afterwards. But I will continue talking about cultural humility. And I actually want to preface this topic by discussing another topic called cultural competence. Now, I know that we have had a few classes in the past that have talked about both of these, cultural humility and cultural competence. And with cultural competence, it did a really good initial job of having healthcare providers start practicing cultural awareness and responsiveness. The definition of cultural competence is having knowledge that is specific to each culture, a self-reflection on one's own culture, and the ability to create a balance between adherence to cultural norms and an introduction of new frames of references. And so with cultural competence, the reason why it's not really working much anymore is because with cultural competence, it expects healthcare providers and people practicing it to be knowledgeable for all cultures. And that's just really not, it's not really possible, because as we know, culture is more than just someone's race or ethnicity or both. It incorporates their gender, their sexual identity, orientation. It reflects their abilities, their hobbies, their habits, their roles, and their routines. You know, each of us as an individual person, we have a culture. We have a culture within ourselves that is very different from our parents, from our siblings, from the rest of our family members. And once we are able to understand that, that really can help us. And with cultural competence, you're expected to know everything that you need to know about culture and about different cultures. It's expected that you're going to be knowledgeable about everything that you need to know. And so if you have gaps or if you make a mistake about something, then it's not really feasible. It's not really something that's looked at as okay because you should know everything that you need to know. And another thing about cultural competence is that it focuses on the differences between cultures. It doesn't really like to think about the fact that there are differences within cultures. And then another thing that really is important to understand about cultural competence that makes it not as good as it was initially when it was created and coined is that it generally is silent on issues of power imbalance within and outside of the healthcare system in particular. And so with cultural competence, it doesn't like to really talk about the fact that there's this power struggle that happens in an office or in the clinic. You know, we as future occupational therapists, we're going to go in and we're going to see people who automatically think that we know everything that we need to know and that we can easily fix them or that we're more knowledgeable about their lives. And of course, to establish a really good therapeutic relationship, we want to make sure as occupational therapists in particular that we let them understand that they are their most knowledgeable person in their lives about themselves. We don't know everything that we need to know about them. It is up to them to let us know these things. And it is up to us as future occupational therapists to ask questions that can really bring out that knowledge because we don't know everything that we need to know about this person. We don't know if they like to stay indoors or if they find life meaningful by being outside and interacting with people. Every person is different, even if they look the same. And that's just the problem with cultural competence. And that's why it's slowly being edged out and being introduced to a new topic and a new framework called cultural humility. And I really like cultural humility so much better because I think it gives healthcare providers a better opportunity to learn and grow. And with cultural humility, the full definition, what it's defined by, is that it's a lifelong learning-oriented approach to working with people of diverse cultural backgrounds and a recognition of power dynamics in healthcare. And so with cultural humility, you see that there is just a lifelong learning process. You're never going to fully understand culture and cultural dynamics fully. It's just not going to happen because every single day someone's culture is changing, a culture is changing. If we look at ourselves, 10 years ago, who we were as a person is very different than who we are now. We've learned so much and have experienced so much within these past 10 years that have shaped who we are as a person today, that has shaped how our culture is currently compared to how it was before. How we acted, how we interacted with people is very different. And that's something that cultural humility understands and actually really appreciates, is that you're always going to be learning something. It is something that you're never going to master. Learning culture is not something that you can ever master. It is something that you, along with every other person on this planet, is going to continue learning pretty much up until our life is done. And I think that's great because with that knowledge that it's just a continuous lifelong process, is that it's okay to have gaps in knowledge. It's okay for you to not know everything because that's where the learning happens. Those gaps create opportunities for you to learn something new and for you to grow not only as a person but as a healthcare provider. Because if you meet a new client that you're working with that is so different from every other client that you've experienced before, that's going to help you as a provider grow and learn, so that way you can be more knowledgeable next time and that you can work towards being more client-centered and having even a better therapeutic relationship with people in the future, because you're really taking into account that this person is very different from you. They may look the same, but how they act, how they respond to things, what they do in their daily life is going to be very different. And what they find meaningful in their life is not going to be the same as yours. And of course, we know this, but it is something that we always have to be very aware of, especially when we're going into a clinic and meeting new people. It's something that we're going to practice even when we're considered experts in the field, or we've had 20 years of experience in our field. It's going to be something that is just a constant learning process. And so another thing that I would like for us to do now is watch yet another video. And this video is called Cultural Engagement, Cultural Competence, and Cultural Humility. And it's roughly 9 minutes long, but it does a really good job. This video actually has different people in different professions talking about cultural humility and what we can do within each healthcare field, whether it's occupational therapy, physical therapy, social work, any other forms of healthcare providing. This video does a really good job of expressing how we can do that and how we can grow as a profession and as healthcare providers and really establish that relationship that's very important to really care for clients. And so one of the big things that we can do now and how we can start practicing cultural humility is by understanding that we all have biases and prejudices, and that's just what makes us human. We have biases that we used to think that we no longer believe. We have thoughts that we used to think that are completely changed now. And that's great. That's what cultural humility is about. And understanding where your biases and your prejudices may have come from allows you for that change to occur. And so, just start asking yourself questions like, what assumptions do I make about this? What assumptions do I make about that? When I think of a certain whatever, what is my first thought? And we can, once we get those answers to those questions, that's where we can fully start to adapt and learn and grow. And I think practicing that now and starting now, and especially as we're about to go into our level 2 field work, I think that is even better because we'll get that practice that we need even before we become new practitioners in the field. And then once we are actually in the field, that's where we can really start to learn and we can start to grow. And you can even help your teammates, your coworkers, become even better themselves, because I think once all of us as providers start to really practice cultural humility and practice in that framework, we will have some of the best therapeutic relationships that we can have with clients, and we can really see the benefits of treating them like a person rather than just a patient. So that is it for my video. I'm so happy to have been able to talk to you all about this. I think it is important, obviously, and I think in the future things are going to continue to change, and we just always have to be ready for it. As we know, we are occupational therapists and we are adaptable, and that's what cultural humility is all about, is that you adapt to the changes. And so after this video ends, I have a Padlet for you to do, and I also have a knowledge check / survey that I would like for you all to complete within the next week. And I hope you have a wonderful day, and I cannot wait to hear your responses. So thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.